Welcome. In this video, we'll be looking at examples from Lesson 8 in Module 2 and Lesson 9 in Module 2. Make sure you're ready to take notes in both sections. Here we're talking about how we can add and subtract rational numbers, and we're going to take a look at a couple of ideas that are going to help us do it a little more easily. From Lesson 8, in our first example, we're going to talk about the meaning of the opposite of a sum is the sum of its opposites. Sometimes it's easier to add certain numbers than others, and this is one way we can take a look at a situation where we can make it a little easier to add. If we take two rational numbers, in this case we're going to take 7 and -2, and we're going to add those two numbers and then take the opposite of our result, or sum. The sum of 7 plus -2 is 5, and the opposite of that sum is -5. This is what it looks like if we were to write it as an equation. The opposite of 7 plus -2 is -5. This is what we mean by the opposite of a sum, when we have the negative sign out in front of two values that are being added. Now this is the same as if we take the opposite of those two rational numbers. So first we're going to take the opposite of 7, which is -7, and then we're going to take the opposite of -2, which is +2. If we add these two together, we get -5, which is the same answer we got before. So we can say that -7 plus 2 is -5. So you can see that the way we did this, we got the same answer both times, whether we had the opposite of 7 plus -2 or -7 plus 2. We got -5 both times. We've looked at this in the past as being distributing the -1. We took the opposite of 7 and the opposite of -2, -7 and +2, and added them together. Sometimes that's an easier way to look at a problem. So we can have the expression, the opposite of 7 plus -2 equals -7 plus 2. This is one way for us to simplify parts of an expression. Let's take a look at example 2. The other idea that we're talking about is how we can take a mixed number, like 2 2/5, and break it into the sum of two rational numbers, 2 plus 2/5. If we look at this on a number line, the positive version of 2 2/5 can be broken into 2, so we have a line going 2, and then 2/5, so we have a line going 2/5. We're adding them together, and we end up at 2 2/5. The opposite of 2 2/5 is the opposite of 2 plus 2/5. And we looked at that in our previous example. That's the same as -2 plus -2/5. It ends up in the same spot as the -2 2/5. So the notes we want to write down for this example: a mixed number is a whole number and a fraction. That's the definition of a mixed number. And a mixed number can be written as the sum of the whole number and the fraction. Both parts of the sum have the same sign as the mixed number. So here the mixed number was positive, 2 2/5. So we have a +2 and a +2/5. Here our number was -2 2/5. So we have a -2 wholes and a -2/5. In our examples from Lesson 9, we're going to use these two ideas to solve some problems. So here is Lesson 9, examples 1 and 2. We're going to use these two concepts in order to solve these two problems without having to actually solve them. We're going to look at them in an easier way, because right now they look pretty complex. Here we have 4 4/7 minus 4 4/7 minus 10. First thing we're going to do is we're going to rewrite this as a sum instead of a difference. So we've rewritten 4 4/7 minus 10 as 4 4/7 plus the opposite of 10. So subtracting a number is the same as adding its inverse or opposite. Now we're going to break this apart. We're using the idea that we just learned, that the opposite of a sum is the sum of its opposites. So here we have the opposite of a sum. 4 4/7 plus -10 is the same as the sum of its opposites. The opposite of 4 4/7 is negative 4 4/7, and the opposite of negative 10 is positive 10. So the opposite of a sum is the sum of its opposites. The next step we're going to do is we're going to rearrange things so that we're adding two things that are opposites. 4 4/7 plus negative 4 4/7, that equals 0. The sum of opposite numbers is 0. A number plus its opposite equals 0. And so we have an answer of 10. Now, these were a lot of steps, and we went through them in very specific order so you can see what's going on. Once you're comfortable with this, you don't have to go through every step. You can jump down to where you can see that this is negative 4 4/7 plus 10. That's what I took these two steps to do. And then it's easy to put together the opposite numbers to make 0 and get your answer. Let's take a look at another example where we're using the second idea that we can break a mixed number into the sum of two rational numbers. In example 2, we have 5 plus negative 4 4/7. The first thing I'm going to do is rewrite 4 4/7 as a sum, 4 plus 4/7. So the mixed number 4 4/7 is equivalent or equal to 4 plus 4/7. Now I'm going to use this opposite of a sum as the sum of its opposite ideas to break up the opposite of the sum 4 4/7 is the opposite of 4 plus the opposite of 4/7. When we looked at example 2 in the previous lesson, I said that the sign for the two parts of a mixed number is the same as the sign of the mixed number. So we can see we had negative 4 4/7, so we have negative 4 plus negative 4/7. A lot of times people forget to make the fraction part have the same sign as the whole number. Okay, so we use the rule the opposite of a sum is the sum of its opposites. And now I'm going to take 5 plus negative 4 and I'm going to add those parts first. I'm going to deal with the whole number first. That gives me 1. Now it's much easier for me to deal with my whole number here and my fraction. Right? There it was. 5 plus negative 4 gives me 1. Next I'm going to turn 1 into a fraction with a common denominator as my fraction. So 1 whole is the same as 7/7. And now I can add those very easily. 7/7 plus negative 4/7, 7 plus negative 4 is 3. So I get an answer of 3/7. Now it's much easier to be sure that I've got the right answer than trying to put this on a number line and make sevenths out of the distance between 5 and 4 and all that fun stuff. So remember, we've got our two rules. The opposite of a sum is the sum of its opposites. So anytime I have a negative sign outside a sum, a parentheses with sum in it, then I can turn both sides inside to the opposite of what they were. And I can break a mixed number into its whole number and its fraction. Okay, make sure your notes are all together, and we'll see you in class.